Welcome, everyone, to the April 15th, Tax Day 2024 regular Board of Aldermen meeting. Would everybody please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka.
Here.
Alderwoman Tice. Here. Alderman Weggie.
Here.
Alderwoman Sims. Here. Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderman Gould.
Here.
Alderwoman Harder. Here. Alderman Erger.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes? Any objection to approving the same by acclamation? Seeing none, it will be so approved. Brings us down to item 4, announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. The first up is the Destination Playground Grand Opening slideshow. Michelle, are you handling this for us? All right. Oh, okay. I know it. I had to put my hand over the end of the scissors to make sure nobody. Yeah. Hey, there's our alderman. These two aldermen. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you to Keith Dodell with Gene Dell Publishing, I guess, is in Brentwood. They also published The Pulse, which is the local paper. He's the one that took a lot of those photos that were put into that. So thank you to Keith. In case anybody hasn't heard, we do have a playground. If you haven't been down there, I would highly recommend you go take a look at it. It's a pretty cool thing. Next up is recognitions from the fire and police departments. So I think we're going to do Chief Bernie. You want to go first?
Be presenting for Chief Cottrell this evening. He's ill. This is a very unique opportunity for us to recognize what everyone here already knows, that we have excellent staff. Because of the high level of training and dedication and expeditious responses, we have 2 success stories to share and like to recognize these crews tonight. So the first call, and these are both for clinical saves, which is we find someone in cardiac arrest and then deliver them to the hospital with a palpable pulse, and then both of these patients walked out of the hospital and returned to a normal life. So that's a very good success story. So on Sunday afternoon, February 18th, 2024, our fire units responded to the report of an unconscious patient with difficulty breathing in the Drury Hotel. Prior to arriving on the scene, East Central Dispatch updated the responding units and said that the patient was in cardiac arrest with CPR being initiated. Early, effective CPR is the key in the chain of survival for these types of events. The crews arrived on the scene less than 5 minutes, and they found a 72-year-old female patient that was in cardiac arrest with CPR being performed by a family member. Our personnel began immediate advanced medical care, continued CPR, and then administered shocks and all of the medications per protocol. These quick actions and efforts resulted in the successful resuscitation of the patient, who was ultimately discharged back to her home state, where she is having a full recovery and is continually displaying improvements. So, based on those actions, it's my honor tonight to present the Brentwood Fire Department Certificate of Excellence to the members of the fire department on that call that are here with us this evening, and that is firefighter paramedics Nick Simon, Catherine St. George, Seth Carey, and engineer Darren Chavez. Darren? Okay, our second recognition, different shift. Friday morning, March 29th, Brentwood Fire and Police units responded to a report of an unconscious patient experienced a seizure inside one of our local Brentwood businesses. The 911 caller disconnected quickly from East Central to tend to the patient. The caller, Ms. Tracy O'Brien, is a client and a friend of the patient and quickly realized the need for early and effective CPR, which she initiated. Shortly thereafter, Brentwood Police Officer Ortnow was the first Brentwood unit to arrive on the scene, and he immediately continued highly effective CPR. Fire crews arrived on the scene less than 4 minutes, and there was a 54-year-old male in cardiac arrest. Our personnel, again, began advanced medical care, which included electrical defibrillation, all of the cardiac medications, and then also an advanced airway. These quick actions of care resulted in, again, another successful resuscitation of the patient, who was discharged to his home, where he continues to recover and was one of the guests of honor at the Brentwood Park opening. Made a miraculous recovery, walked out of the ICU less than 7 days later. So, it's definitely my honor to present, again, the Brentwood Fire Certificate of Excellence to members of the Brentwood Fire and Police Department for their outstanding professionalism and teamwork. So let's be Officer Stephen Ortnow and firefighter paramedics Tony DiPaolo, Nick Mayer, Clay Banderman, Engineer Larry Drexler, Lieutenant John Youngblood, and Captain Jake Urshan. And Mayor, if you'll indulge us, the victim here is in presence of the audience tonight.
Oh, is he? Okay,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good evening. The police department will be presenting 3 separate awards tonight. I'll do the first one. Major Hawkins and Major Simpson will do the second and third. Could I have Officer Timmy Lockenick and his K9 Red Bull, Al Wilcox, Alex, Jamie Clark, just stand there, that's fine, Tim Mueller, and Sergeant Vince Mullen. A few weeks ago, we put this group of officers together, and it really was in response to the change of the pursuit policy that you heard about on the Board of Aldermen with regard to our nighttime crime. So in the beginning of the process of putting this unit together, we decided to put them on day watch for a couple of weeks to get the logistics worked out, get their equipment ready, and have them ready to go to nights. Well, 2 things happened. Our nighttime crime is non-existent at this point. And the second that happened is they went up in the, particularly in the north end of town here in Brentwood, and just hit a home run. I mean, they were, you'll hear in a second about their statistics, but I think it's just a credit to the officers to my left on their work ethic, on their professionalism, and their ability to really significantly affect our crime. So Sergeant Vince Mullen, Tim Mueller, Al Wilcox, Timmy Lockenick, Jamie Clark, and Red, they conducted 460 enforcement stops in this period of time, which is roughly right at a month. They issued 183 traffic citations, made 42 arrests, 5 weapons seizures, and 21 canine deployments with the dog. Out of those cases, one of them was an assault first degree, wherein one of 3 victims was sliced across his neck, and 3 suspects were arrested with warrants issued and a large bond. That was off of a fight at the McDonald's earlier this month. They made an arrest on a robbery first investigation, revealed the subject flourished a knife at our Home Depot at a loss prevention agent as he was stopped while exiting with stolen power tools. The robbery first warrant was issued with a $250,000 bond. That particular case, this group of officers did an investigation, found out where the guy lived in the city. We were able to track him down and make the arrest and get warrants issued on that case. A suspect operating a stolen vehicle that fled from these officers was arrested and determined to be wanted by the United States Marshal Service for a federal probation violation, with the original charge being possession of dangerous drugs. A suspicious occupied vehicle led to the arrest of 2 subjects. One was wanted for stealing a firearm from St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, and the other had multiple warrants. A Glock 21 .45 caliber pistol and a FN 5.7 pistol were seized. Also recovered in that arrest was a law enforcement style body armor that was in the vehicle. On another case, a suspect was arrested for shoplifting at Target. Much of what these officers did not only worked in our retail area, but they also made it much easier for our day watch officers to conduct their business on the day watch, because they handled a lot of the calls that our day watch typically would get. In that case, in-custody warrants were sought for a repeat offender on that case at Target, and St. Louis County prosecutors issued stealing fourth and drug possession of fentanyl. In another case, a juvenile suspect was trespassing and resisted arrest after attempting to enter a locked office space at Music Memorial. An investigation with Division of Family Services and Family Courts revealed the juvenile had been homeless. The officers worked to find his grandmother, and they located her, and he was later conveyed to her residence, and he was reunited with his grandmother. A traffic stop that resulted in the discovery of fentanyl, and numerous pills were concealed within the vehicle. It should be noted, these officers volunteered for this, changed their hours. Obviously, it became a stressful environment, even though it's probably a little fun for them. We are always juggling manpower in the police department here at Brentwood, so not sure how long we'll be able to keep these 5 together, but they have done an outstanding job in the time that they were together for a little over a month, so we'd like to recognize that. Congratulations. Jamie, congratulations. Timmy?
Yeah. There you go.
Our next award winners are Josh Bowersox, Lieutenant Josh Bowersox, who at the time this occurred was a sergeant, and then again, Officer TJ Lackinick and Red Bull. On December 6, 2023, at approximately 4 p.m., PO Tim Lackinick and Sergeant Josh Bowersox monitored a radio broadcast of a suspect that had just stabbed an employee at the Panda Express in Richmond Heights. Suspect had fled the scene in a vehicle, and a vehicle description was broadcast by the dispatchers. P.O. Lackinick and Sergeant Bowersox at the time, now Lieutenant Bowersox, immediately responded to the area and observed the suspect vehicle traveling westbound on Eager Road near Music Memorial. They curbed the vehicle, and then utilizing felony car stop tactics, the suspect exited the vehicle and was taken into custody without incident. During a search incident to arrest, a knife was located and determined to be the weapon that was used to stab the victim. The suspect was turned over to the custody of Richmond Heights officers. Richmond Heights officers charged and received warrants from the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office for assault first degree, armed criminal action, assault fourth degree, and a $250,000 cash-only bond was secured. The suspect in this case had a violent criminal history dating back to 2009. In May of 2021, the suspect was charged with assault first degree, armed criminal action, and unlawful use of a weapon from a shooting incident in July of 2009. The suspect was charged with unlawful use of a weapon and possession of drugs. This is yet another example of Brentwood officers answering the call, utilizing their training and experience, and taking a violent suspect off the streets. If not for their quick actions of P.O. Lackinick and Sergeant Bowersox, this violent suspect was well on their way to making good their escape. Thank you guys very much. Good job.
Nice work.
Good evening. The final award tonight will be presented to Sergeant Todd Lambert, Officer Christopher Chambers, Officer Peyton Barron, and Officer Amber Hawkins. If you four could come forward, please. Whichever way you want. Show us your good side. On April 2nd of 2024, at approximately 7:30 p.m., Brentwood Police received multiple 911 calls for an active shooter in the Brentwood Forest neighborhood. These officers, along with Sergeant Lambert, responded in less than 30 seconds, began searching for the suspect. A witness exited their residence and pointed the officers in the direction of the suspect. Officers Barron and Hawkins, without hesitation, moved in that direction and were able to locate the suspect hiding behind a tree. They used extremely sound officer safety tactics. The suspect was taken into custody with no injuries, no major incidents. The weapon the suspect used was located after he attempted to discard it by throwing it underneath a deck nearby. The suspect in the incident had a prior criminal history, including domestic assault, assault on law enforcement officers, kidnapping, stealing motor vehicles, tampering with motor vehicles, drugs, and a probation violation. Officer Chambers and Sergeant Lambert, assisted by Clayton and Richmond Heights officers, coordinated the identification with multiple witnesses and victims and secured what was a very chaotic crime scene. The quick response and thorough investigative work led to the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office issuing charges of vehicle hijacking, assault first degree, unlawful use of a weapon, armed criminal action, and a felon in possession of a firearm. Because of their quick actions and dedication to this profession, Sergeant Lambert, Officers Hawkins, Barron, and Chambers are deserving of this Chief's Letter of Commendation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, officer. Thank you. I think instead of the plaques, Red might prefer having treats. All right, that brings us down to item number 3, proclamation, Arbor Day. Just go ahead and read this. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Brentwood has been recognized as the Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices, now therefore I, Mayor David Dimmitt, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day in the city of Brentwood and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands, and further urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And just in case anybody was curious, we've earned the recognition as the Tree City USA for the past 35 years, and we're very proud of that. Next up, under the announcements, finally, is the committee appointments and reappointments. After every election, the mayor typically will look at the committees and make assignments or reassignments or changes. And I've reached out to a number of the aldermen, and a lot of them are very happy with where they are. And as I think all of you know, my philosophy is it's important that every alderman have an opportunity to serve on the Ways and Means Committee. While I'm not suggesting that the other committees aren't as important as Ways and Means, I think the Ways and Means is something, it's great to have some experience, especially during the budgeting process, so you understand the importance of the revenue and where all that money goes. And I appointed Alderman Erger and Alderwoman Harder last summer, and at that time I appointed Alderwoman Harder on the Ways and Means. And so now what I'd like to do is swap them and put Alderman Erger on Ways and Means and Alderwoman Harder on Public Safety. So if I could get a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Carries. Next up are citizen comments. Anybody in the public care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. All we ask is that you come to the podium and state your name and your address, and you'll be given up to 3 minutes.
Hello. We spoke earlier today. My name is Bridget Sigilito. I live at 2901 Brazo, directly across the street from the new park, and parking is an utter disaster people have blocked my parking pad no less than 5 times. People have also parked in my grass in the back alley of my house. And on the way here, there was a dirty diaper in my yard. It is just absolutely ridiculous. I have put up signs. I blocked my parking pad with trash cans. People moved the trash cans. I don't know what else to do other than call the police. This has turned me into a Karen, and I really do not want to be. This is the last thing I want to be doing on a Monday night. And I think the park itself is great, but we need more parking. We need more resources. We need resident-only parking. I had to cancel plans for my friends to come over because there was no place for them to go. I had to call the cops multiple times. One of the officers was very rude and did not help me at all. Another officer was very kind. Yeah, so I'm just kind of at my wit's end and really don't know what else to do. I spent $50 yesterday buying signs, and people ignored those and still parked in front of my parking pad, saying that it was, a private drive. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. The public comment's not a question and answer session, but I do appreciate you showing up. As I said today, when I spoke with you, I suggested that you come here and let the rest of the board know about your experience this last, well, not just this weekend, but I'm sure the last, ever since it's open, probably on April 6th. Well, the only question I have for you is this pad that you're talking about. Is that in essence essentially your driveway?
Yes.
That's where you park your
It's my
car,
parking pad,
and so you were
yes.
blocked? Okay.
I was not blocked from exiting, I was blocking from parking.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, we will move on to mayor and alderman reports. Thank you very much, Bridget, for taking your time out and showing up tonight. Under mayor reports, just a few things. First, I want to thank Eric and his team for the grand opening on April 6, 2024. They did a spectacular job in putting that all together. Michelle Boyer is also involved. Everybody, I hesitate to even name anybody for fear that I will leave somebody out. But I think we all would agree that it was a terrific event. It was with all these, obviously if attendance is any indication, then we know that it's a terrific playground, and it was greatly needed in the area by virtue of the fact that so many people were there in attendance and using the playground. Obviously, with all these crowds becomes parking issues, and we expected this parking issue even before the grand opening. And so we took steps to try and reduce any parking issues that we might have by identifying spots around the city that belongs to the city, and we encourage people to make use of those, and we blasted that out on social media and other avenues to try to educate people coming to Brentwood that, hey, here are some other spots to park. Don't rely solely upon the parking lot that's adjacent to the park. But even with that, we still are having issues, as we just heard the one resident talk about her experience living on Brazos, and I know the folks along Pendleton, as well as the businesses as well, are having issues. So we will be looking at constructing temporary lots to relieve this pressure, and I believe Eric might be giving a report on that later tonight. The next thing is upcoming April 19th, 2024, Eager Road cleanup. In conjunction with Charlie Brennan, I'm happy to report that we had 50 open volunteer spots, and those are all filled. And thanks to Charlie for arranging this. Our police will be helping out to make sure that roads traffic is restricted for the safety of the volunteers. And the Cardinals have donated 2 tickets for each volunteer, and even our local Chick-fil-A has donated a free sandwich for each of the volunteers as well. So this is an opportunity for us, if you're willing and able to get out there and clean up the trash along Eagle Road and along Interstate 64. It seems to be growing each year with participation. So I expect that come Saturday, Eagle Road won't look anything like it does right now. And hopefully it will stay like that for at least a couple of weeks before the trash begins to accumulate and we take a look at doing the same thing in 2025. We are halfway through the Low Mow April, which is a creature of the Sustainability Committee. This effort encourages residents to limit their lawn mowing to every 2 weeks, with the mower set on maximum height to preserve flowering capabilities for pollinators. Our city treasurer, longtime Brentwood resident Keith Slusser has submitted his resignation as the treasurer, and he served both the city and the school district over the years, and we thank him for the work that he's done for the city. Consequently, we are looking to fill this open city treasurer position, and here are the requirements. So I'm letting the 8 alder people know about this, and anybody who's watching this. The requirements are you must be a resident of Brentwood, and you must be a qualified voter. So it's open to essentially anybody who wants to be the city treasurer. This person serves and advises the Ways and Means Committee and also serves on the Police and Fire Pension Board. And so it's a non-compensated position and requires relatively little time commitment. Essentially, you attend the quarterly Police and Firemen Pension Board meetings, which take place at 8:30. And so if you know of somebody who might be interested in serving the city as the city treasurer and is willing to show up at these 4 meetings a year, if you would reach out to them and let them know. I've got a couple of people, but I'd like to open it up and see if we get some more interest. Finally, next Thursday, April 25th, is our monthly coffee with the mayor at 9 a.m. in this room. So that's it on the mayor's report. Next up, Alderman Plufka.
Thank you. Public Safety will meet in this chamber on the 24th at 5:30.
Oh, Alderwoman Tice.
No report.
Alderman Weggie.
No report.
Alderwoman Sims.
Our May 2nd Ways and Means monthly meeting is going to be moved from that Thursday, May 2nd, to the preceding Tuesday, April 30th, 5:30 in this room.
Thank you. Alderman Lockmuller.
No report.
Alderman Gould.
Yes, we've got a Communications Committee meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And then I also wanted to remind everybody that in addition to the Eager Road cleanup, the Brentwood Wetland Arboretum Honeysuckle Hack is happening, I believe, on Saturday morning. So if you're interested, there's a sign up out there, but I would say show up in the morning at, I think, 9 o'clock, Brandon. And hack down some honeysuckle for us.
Okay. Thank you. Alderwoman Harder.
No report.
And Alderman Erger.
The next Brentwood Forest Board meeting is on April 30th at 6 p.m. in the Brentwood Forest Clubhouse. That's it.
Thank you. Brings us down to item 7, City Administrator Report. First up is the Brentwood Bound update.
Hi, good evening. Craig Schlitter with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be providing the Brentwood Bound update. Since the last Board of Aldermen meeting, the city has spent $315,167.94 on construction costs. Next is soft costs, $44,658.71 was spent on project management and material testing fees. And then going to categories of funding, there were no changes. So a quick report.
Thank you. Any questions? Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second item under the City Administrative Report is the Proposition S and OMCI taxing districts MSD request feedback. Who's handling this? Dan?
This particular item was talked about at the Public Works Committee. So Proposition S and Proposition W passed. Most people know that on April 2nd. Prop S is in regards to stormwater. Currently, we only have the OMCI funds that we're collecting, and MSD told us they'll continue to collect the OMCI through the end of 2024. But in 2025, they'll just collect Proposition S unless the cities that are in these different OMCI districts want to keep the OMCI district turned on. So what that means for Brentwood is it's roughly $121,000 a year is what OMCI pulls in just for Brentwood share. And they need this survey filled out with what direction we want to go in by the 26th of April. That's the gist of it. They also would take it back to their board, and enough cities that are in the Deer Creek watershed would need to participate. So that would be Ladue, Maplewood, Webster Groves, us. You know, they don't want to just do it for one particular municipality. So it depends. I know at the Public Works, they'd like to keep the OMCI on, but this is for discussion with the full 8-panel board.
Alderman Weggie?
Just to clarify, I am not in favor of keeping the OMCI. You know, in 2019, we passed a resolution kind of going back in history, so they turned off the OMCI previous to 2019. At that time, they came and asked our feedback, and we passed a resolution. I don't know if it was unanimous, but in opposition of going back to the OMCI. This is a tax that is on our residents that they're paying. They are paying that. I do appreciate that we have been using the OMCI since they did decide to turn it on to fund our stormwater master plan. We could, you know, we will still have it through 2024, so what we have budgeted so far, we can continue to do. I know that our revenue that we as a city get from that would be reduced in the future, but we would just have to scale back our stormwater management plan. I feel like our residents have passed many taxes. They've been very generous with passing these things, and when we have an opportunity to reduce this, I think it's imperative that we say no.
Okay. Anyone else? Alderwoman Tice?
So I don't disagree with that, but I also, just to clarify, what I thought I heard at the Public Works meeting was that one of the options was with the OMCI is to turn on a little bit of it. And so right now, with the OMCI, the city gets, I think, $121,000 a year to go toward stormwater issues. And we had the stormwater master plan, and we have hundreds of thousand,
About $6 million.
about $6 million worth of projects within the plan, which is not going to be finished in our lifetimes, even at $121,000. And under Prop S, we're only getting $75,000. So one of the options that MSD mentioned was keeping it on a smaller amount so that the city could continue to get the higher amount. And that right now, under OMCI, MSD takes a cut. And one of the options was that they wouldn't take a cut. So maybe there's a way to turn on, just like keep on a little bit of the tax, because the biggest issue that certainly that I hear about is water runoff. It gets icy in the winter. There are a lot of these issues that we've identified, and even one of the top 6 or 7 we're skipping because it's $400,000 all along Pine Avenue, and it would be years before we could gather $400,000 to deal with that. So I also just think we need to be aware that if we do turn this off, we're just stringing this out, you know, for our children's lifetimes and our grandchildren's lifetimes, that it will take till these things are fixed.
So do we need a resolution at this point in time? What the
Motion from the
motion
board,
to-
because there is a survey component that if if a motion was made and it was passed, then Dan could complete the survey questions that indicate that the city would either like for it to continue or not.
Does the survey go out to the residents?
No, it's just to the city.
Gotcha.
It's a survey that was sent to the city
Okay.
to complete.
So whatever the resolution is, it'll be reflected in that,
Right.
that survey?
Right.
Okay. Are you wanting to make a motion then or not? Is anybody wanting to make a motion?
I'll let Brandon make the motion, but I just wanted to clarify what we discussed and what the impact of turning this off would mean. So that's
Okay.
all, like,
I mean, I agree. We're stringing it out. As it stands right now, it's over 60 years before we would finish that master plan, and that's if no new conditions occur. So, and now if it's reduced, it's like 120 years or something, but like, it's just gonna be slow. It's gonna be a drip. I mean, the survey they're asking somebody in Brentwood to fill out is kind of a yes, no. It doesn't have an option for, we would like to explore different, you know, avenues. It's basically, no, we don't want to keep the OMCI tax, or yes, we are interested in meeting to discuss whether or not to keep the OMCI tax, and I think that's what we did at Public Works. So I would make the motion that,
Go ahead and make
to direct staff to respond no on this Proposition S and OMCI taxing district survey.
Okay. We got a second? Did I hear a second? Okay. Any discussion on that motion? Yes, Alderman Gould.
I mean, while I agree in principle that we need to look for ways to lessen tax burden, I totally agree with that. I think that The idea, though, of almost cutting what we might be receiving a significant funding source to handle some of these stormwater, I think we've heard it loud and clear, the community wants these addressed. They fully supported us doing a master plan, and I don't think a lot of them would go into that discussion as, yeah, I support you to take care of this stormwater problem that I have on a continual basis, but you might not even touch me for 60 years. That's not something that people would be supportive of. We have, I think the survey that they're asking is not, even if we say no, that doesn't mean, others might say yes, and then that means we all come together at a table and talk about, or the committees that they put together come and talk about how it's implemented. So I think even if we say yes to, we are open to having a discussion to keep it on, that helps us to say, what does that mean? You know, do we do it just enough to cover the reduction that we're going to be taking? I think if we say no, then we have no leverage, no discussion at all with them, and they say, okay, and then turn it off. So I'm in favor of continuing the discussion with MSD, because I don't think this locks us into the rate that it's going to be, or even if it's going to be turned on. This is just saying that we want to continue discussion. That's at least how I understand it.
Alderman Plufka.
I don't think that any of the residents, if they understood the scenario between scenarios 1 and scenario 2, that they see an appreciable difference between waiting 60 years for projects to come online and 120 years for projects to come online. I mean, the volume of money that's being spent here against what we've already identified as being the need, this is a lousy delivery system. I mean, I don't care how you slice it. And it just seems to me that if there's a way to reduce tax burden here and not change appreciably a program that has not done much of anything in terms of Brentwood, I'm in favor of it. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't look for other ways to try to fund this or look for other ways to try to do this, you know, in the future. I just don't think this delivery system works. And I think any way to, in my mind, the balance between reducing a tax debt and bringing ourselves infinitesimally closer to getting some of the projects we've already identified done, I think the balance goes towards reducing tax debt.
Alderwoman Sims.
Comments of Alderman Weggie and Alderman Plufka. You know, the idea of reducing a tax burden on our residents, I think we should look for those opportunities. But just to look at this survey of, no, we don't want to keep the OMCI tax, or yes, we'd like to discuss further on those facts, I would support having the conversation, and we can still say no. I just can't, you know, but just to dismiss it out of hand is what I may end up voting with you about, you know, electing not to keep it, but to just not have the conversation vexes me. So I would support that I am at least interested in meeting to discuss whether or not to keep the OMCI tax. So.
Alderman Tice.
I was going to make the same point as Alderwoman Sims.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, right in front of you right now is a motion to, I'd say, deny the request. So if there's no further discussion, could we, I guess, all in favor of denying the request to turn on the OMCI? Roll call? What? Am I saying it the wrong way?
Yes, sir. It is to reply no in favor of turning off the tax
Okay.
now.
Okay. Thank you. So the motion is to vote to turn off the OMCI tax. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it by a vote of, I'm going to say, 2-6. So that would be, it stays on. Is that right? Do they need
Well,
a,
we enter, yeah,
I
no, because there's no
presume
motion.
Staff will take that as an indication they should respond that the city is prepared
okay.
to continue discussion.
but we don't need a vote to do that, is what I'm getting to. That's where I was going. We've already had a vote, so I
I think it wouldn't be a bad idea, but
Oh.
if the choices are A or B and you said no to A,
I will make a motion to respond to the survey that, yes, we are open to continuing the discussion with MSD.
okay.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
Motion carries by the count of 6-2. All right. Now we made it through the tough stuff. So are we having a report by Eric? Okay, that's the last item on the city administrator report. And I think this is to discuss the parking issue at the new playground / park.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a surprise to many that we've had a few comments on social media and directly to the city about parking issues in the park and specific along in the neighborhood behind the park. That goes along with multiple positive comments as well. I want to make sure we continue to say that it's been great and the park is getting wonderful response from the community. So obviously, we actually talked about this at the Public Works meeting Thursday night, so we've been looking at this for a while. And, you know, we've been coming up with a few different options for temporary parking solutions. And so a couple of them that we have to kind of discuss is 8318 Manchester Road, which is the former Latrell building, which is just east of the Public Works garage. This is a property that we own and could quickly turn into a temporary parking lot. And while we haven't gone and done a full survey, staff believes it can accommodate up to 35 spaces. There's Russell Avenue. We own those two lots on Russell Avenue on each side of Hilldale Avenue. Again, I think this is something that we could look at permanent parking to in the future. But for now, if we want to do something immediate and quick, we could do something, and we think we could probably get 20 to 25 spaces on each lot, depending on what we do. 8614 Manchester is on the south side of Manchester, and that is that green space right now, which is currently adjacent to the Brentwood Park, and it's one of the locations where the surface lot for the redevelopment area is supposed to be right in that area too. So the idea is this is a larger area. We've talked to a contractor. They, looking at the size, they think the lot could accommodate up to 70 spaces. If we work with the owner at 8606 Manchester and get a cross-cut easement, access easement, we might not have to do a curb cut either, so that would be beneficial. Right now, that property is still owned by MoDOT. They're supposed to be transferring it to the city in the near future. We have reached out to MoDOT and saying in advance of that formally coming to the city, can we start the process of doing this temporary parking lot? We are still waiting for an answer from MoDOT. And last is across the street at 8615 Manchester. Again, it is a lot that is currently green space. Looking at the size, talking to a contractor, we think we could accommodate 50 spaces there. That would need a curb cut on Dorothy Avenue. So we'd have to have entrance there. And as it's across the street from a trail, looking at ADA, you'd have to do ADA access on that trail right across the street from that lot. Right now, it's just a curb because the ADA access is further up on the trail. So we'd have to look at that as well. So that's kind of what we've come up with. Section 605.1600 of the municipal code does allow temporary parking not to exceed 180 days. So it's something that if the city wanted to do, we could kind of hopefully move fairly quickly on this, although we still have to go through all the proper processes of making sure that we do everything by planning developments, codes, and standards and things like that. We think if we move forward with it, we could probably get this done somewhere between the 3 to 6 week time frame, depending on how much coordinating we have to do with planning. So talking to contractors, talking with Dan, the easiest thing to do is a gravel parking lot. Again, that's part of that temporary parking lot. I know during Public Works, Dan talked about the kind of like those, I forget the what? The True Grid, thank you, I forgot the name. The True Grid, that would be obviously be a little bit more expensive, but would have a little bit more of a cushioning on that aspect of it. So it really comes down to how quickly and costs and things like that. We don't have exact costs. We've been working feverishly trying to get these options going and talking to contractors. But obviously, just a gravel would be the cheapest, and then moving up to a true grid or a full asphalt lot would be the most expensive. So that's kind of where we're at, and I think we're looking for direction of what staff should be pursuing.
How many spots did you say, 8615?
We think we can get 70.
Okay, I'm sorry. Alderman Plufka.
Did you not consider, or maybe I just missed it, right off of Brazos as you turn into the park entrance, before you get to the parking lot that's there, what about the green space to the left?
We did look at that. That has a little bit more. We'd have to do some grading and bring some more things in. And while right now we're focusing on temporary, we'll be coming back to the board with possible permanent parking locations. And that would be one of the permanent parking locations that we are interested in looking at. Quickly offhand, we did talk to the contractor today. We think we can get somewhere between 25 and 35 spots in that location.
Thank you.
Alderman Lockmuller.
As far as the neighborhood on Brazeau, they've gone from crickets to Brentwood days on steroids in that neighborhood. Was there any talk about restricting parking in there? Residential parking only?
We did speak about that at the Public Works Department meeting on Thursday, and again, I forgot to mention that, so I apologize. One of the things that we're talking about doing is installing, what we talked about at the meeting was installing no parking on the east side of the street and allowing parking on the west. We can try to get.
It's already that way.
So basically, not allowing parking on the side adjacent to the park. So it'd be on the other side where most of the houses are located. We did put up temporary parking signs there, but to codify that, that would have to come back to the board, which is what I believe Dan is working on. If we wanted to do something like a residential parking, again, that was not discussed at Public Works. I think that's something that could be looked into. I think that is would go a long way of appeasing and making the residents feel a little bit better of what's going on there. And then it would come down to enforcement.
Yeah, because I think we heard from one tonight. I've heard from others. And I think we've got a public safety committee meeting next week. I think we could probably discuss it there and maybe get an ordinance going if that's what it's going to take to get resident parking.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that we do, whether it's residential parking or no parking would need an ordinance. I would say, the sooner we can get that done, obviously the better, because that will go a long way, giving the police department teeth to kind of write tickets. And once you start writing tickets, I think you're going to see people understand that that's going to change attitude, change what they're doing, and hopefully going to one of these other locations that we will continue to blast out on social media.
Yeah, there seems to be for some reason, they're still using Pendleton to come into that park instead of the main park area. So on social media, if there's some way we can keep pumping up that, hey, here's the entrance to the park and not through a residential area, I think that'd be helpful.
We will. The other thing that we didn't talk about as well is once we get the stoplight at Brazos and Russell, that giving a little bit cleaner access across Brentwood Boulevard instead. You do have to go south a little bit to get the crosswalk across at Bi-State. You can still do that now. We'll make sure people understand that it's not that far a walk. I know that it is a construction zone there right now, so it's not the cleanest area, but once we get that cleaned up, we're excited about having that Russell access as well.
Okay. Any other questions? Alderman Gould?
So, I mean, I don't know what kind of official direction you need, but I think we need to move as quickly as we possibly can. You know that. And I fully support having the discussion at Public Safety about resident-only parking there in that neighborhood on the streets, especially if we have the opportunity to put lots in other places. The lots are right off of Manchester on the north and south side of Manchester. I think that is ideal. And in a way, maybe even GRG would help us in some way because it's sort of a trailhead to the GRG right there on the at the path, for the Brentwood GRG. So.
Yeah, Alderman Tice.
Oh, I have one sort of technical question. I know we're trying to get these up really quickly. And you mentioned the lot at 6515 right at the corner at Dorothy, that would hold 70 cars. It needs a curb cut, but then you're also talking about ADA compliance. So could we not use it until there's some sort of way to get down on the trail? Or can we put gravel down, get 70 cars parking there, and work on the other piece since it's a temporary lot?
I'd have to look at Bola and the city attorney to give you a technical answer on that.
Because, I mean, there's gravel, so that can't be ADA compliant.
Since they're going to be temporary parking lots, that would be our proposal, to put gravel in there, compacted gravel. And because we have wording in the ordinance that would allow us to at least do that temporarily for 180 days, that would be our goal. And mostly to see if Public Works staff could do it, so to save the city money, and all we would be expending money on would be the gravel that we would need to purchase. Right.
I thought your question was about ADA. No?
Well, it was, but I think you're clarifying that in a temporary situation.
I mean,
But
the
we
ADA
can pour the
component.
gravel before we have the ADA component, because my concern is, we've got all these people who can't park anywhere, we've got people blocked in their driveways, and then I don't want us to get stuck
It'll be
with an
phased in.
ADA thing.
It'll be phased in.
Okay.
We would do that as well.
Okay,
It'd be
thank you.
phased in.
Alderman Gould.
I have a question about the ADA. If they were able to get to the sidewalk that's currently there in front of that lot, I mean, wouldn't that classify as ADA? Because you can get to, if you take the sidewalk's completely ADA, and then there's a path right down to the tunnel. So-
But there's no way to get onto the sidewalk. You would have to go on the street all the way up to maybe the entrance to.
But if we were to build a somewhat more permanent thing, access to that sidewalk in front.
Could, yes.
Rather
Yeah,
than
we-
having to redo the curb
Right.
on Dorothy.
That would save the curb cut on Dorothy
Right,
on
so
the,
there's access to ADA
Yep.
if
Already
we just
there.
do right off of the front sidewalk.
yeah, we could
We
we
would
could look
take all
at
that
that.
into
might,
consideration.
yeah, that might be just a additional little piece of concrete.
To make it
Because
go
I think there's
faster.
landscaping there, so if we just do a little bit of concrete to that landscaping, we
Right.
should be okay.
Okay. The only other note that I would have on that is we would probably want to consider some landscaping to keep people from using the other business lot entrance off of Manchester to try to get in there. We would want to funnel them through Dorothy as opposed to cutting through that
Yes, we-
business's
We talked, I
driveway.
mean, landscaping is a lot nicer than what we were talking. We're talking just Jersey barriers, just to make sure it was obvious you couldn't
That's
come in
quick,
the way.
that's quick, but.
It
yeah,
is
maybe-
quicker.
Maybe something to consider, though.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So what direction are you looking from?
I think we're
this
looking
board?
for the board to say, move forward with one of these to continue to move forward with looking at
Option one,
cost.
two.
And whether or not if it's one or all of them, I think our recommendation is the one that's the south on Manchester, because that is the largest one, the easiest one. We just have to wait for MoDOT's approval. 8813 by Public Works is, we own that. We could start that as we wait for MoDOT. And then our third one would be the north side of Manchester Road.
So
And
your
that,
first one you said is that 8614 Manchester?
yeah, because it's
Okay.
just so much parking there.
And you do need a cross access or you don't need a cross?
We would need the cross access. That's
Okay.
why working on Public Works garage at the same time, we could at least move on one section.
Okay,
We want it all.
okay.
Sorry.
Anybody care to
I'll
make
make
a
a
motion?
motion to move forward on the planning and progress for all three of those options.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder?
Yes.
Alderman Erger?
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 8-0.
And I should have asked this before, but is that for gravel and not for the True Grid? Sorry.
I mean, I'd like to have the Public Works give us at Public Works Committee, they were going to price out what it would cost for them to do the True Grid.
So because time is of the essence.
I think, either
can
way, even with the True Grid, we're going to have to lay a gravel base down anyway,
Right.
correct?
So what we can do,
We can
get the cost estimate,
dollars, right, and options with True Grid and with
and
just
we would
gravel.
inform the board on what that cost estimate is, and if there's a need for a special meeting, then
Okay,
we'll propose that.
okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric, for putting that together as quickly as you did. I know at some point you'd like to rest after all the playground, but that's right. Okay, that brings us down to the consent agenda. We have 6 items. Are there any requests to remove any of the items or any questions about any of the items? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder?
Yes.
Alderman Erger?
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 8 to 0.
Great, thank you. That brings us down to old business, item 9, and we have one item, and that is bill number 6491. Can we get a second read by title only, please?
Bill number 6491, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance terminating tax increment financing within redevelopment project area 2 of the Hanley-Strasser redevelopment area, dissolving the special allocation fund related thereto, and authorizing certain actions relating thereto.
Okay, anybody presenting on that, or are we just going to go ahead and, okay. Can we get a motion to perfect bill number 6491 into ordinance form?
My pleasure to make that motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder?
Yes.
Alderman Erger? By a vote of 8 to 0, Bill 6491 will become ordinance number 5121.
Okay, great. That brings us down to new business, and this is, we've dealt with this, or you've all dealt with this last year, if you remember. This is the Cornerstone project. You all approved the CUP back in 2022, but those are only good for 12 months. They came back in, I think, May of last year, maybe, to get a renewal of that, which you all approved. And so here we are again, almost a year later, and they're asking for another extension of that CUP. The attorney for Cornerstone, Mike Doster, is in attendance if you have any questions, but it seems like it's simply a matter, just again, a renewal of what you all did last year. But if you have any questions for him, feel free to call him up, and I'm sure he'll answer them for you. Otherwise, is this just a motion then, or, because this isn't a bill?
I don't believe there's a bill, is there?
I don't have a bill number, so.
I believe it's just a motion.
Just a motion.
Yes.
So unless there are any questions, if we get a motion to approve would be an extension.
Second extension.
Okay, did we get a motion somewhere down here? Did I hear somebody or not?
Second.
Okay. Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the extension of the conditional use permit. Any discussion? Roll call?
Alderman Plufka? Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims? Alderman Lockmiller? Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderwoman Harder? Alderman Erger?
Yes.
Motion carries by a vote of 8 to 0.
Thank you. And that brings us down to citizen comments. Anybody in the audience care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. You'll be given 3 minutes. We just ask you come to the podium, state your name and address.
We have a member online,
Okay.
Karen Smith.
Who?
Karen Smith.
Okay. Karen, can you hear us? More importantly, can we hear you? Bear with us just a second here. There we go. First person up there, right? Smith K. Yeah. Yeah. Hey. Can't hear you yet, Karen. Bear with us a second, Karen. Here we're trying. Nope, lost her.
Promoted her as a panelist to see maybe if she could get in that way.
No, is there a microphone? No. There we go. I think we're getting there. Okay, we've
Sure of it.
had your picture for a second, Karen. We can see you now. Okay, go ahead and try speaking. Let's see if we can hear you. Nope, not yet. Hang on.
Huh?
Should be working, he said. It's fine on his end. Oh, is that right?
We had this issue the other night, and they ended up having to call in and just put it up as his microphone. So this isn't working.
Okay. I don't.
I don't.
Aaron, we're trying to call you.
Well,
If you could answer your phone.
I don't know if I.
Calling her.
Oh, okay.
Here we go.
Oh, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I can hear what you're saying. Type something in the chat.
Microphone.
Can I hear it on your computer, but not here?
Yep.
That's okay.
That's going to be feedback.
Karen, can you talk?
Yes, I can talk. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Karen. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Go right ahead.
I was trying to type this in the chat, but I couldn't get it in there fast enough. But I was just going to say there is a storm park sales tax, and I believe that has been more weighted toward parks in the recent years. But as far as like funding more storm projects, possibly that could be used. And then something else to consider, like we all voted for that. Well, we didn't all vote. I know there are a lot of people maybe that wouldn't, and I'm really cognizant of people that are on fixed incomes and all of these sales taxes that we have voted in recently. But you know, the fact that people did vote that tax in, knowing that we already had this other tax, it seems to me that people want the sewer issues sort of addressed. We've been spending a lot on parks, but I think you know, kind of focusing now on sewers will be important, and possibly considering having that conversation to see if we can't keep a piece of it there so we can maximize what we're going to get out of the revenue generated from the Proposition S. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else want to try and comment via Zoom? All right. If not, then we do have a request to go into closed session following this meeting pursuant to RSMO 610.021 subsections 1 and 2. Can we get a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Plufka? Yes. Alderwoman Tice?
Yes.
Alderman Weggie?
Yes.
Alderwoman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman Gould? Yikes. Sorry. Alderwoman Harder?
Yes.
Alderman Erger?
Great. Thank you, everybody. We'll reconvene in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Mike,
Meeting ended.
give Jess a kiss one, right? Then hit him. Do something. That's not what I said. How have you been? Been well. How about yourself?
All right, I'm still standing.
So there it is.
Do you, hey, do you know how to talk?